Greetings to all of my erudite friends out there. My name is Jeff Kowalk and you are watching Erudite Magic. This channel is all about magic books. So if that's your thing, we're so glad that you're here. Super excited to bring you something today about one specific author. This author has been incredibly prolific, and in fact, the word of the day that I'm going to apply to this author is prodigious. Although frankly, I prefer definition number 2. I am, of course, talking about none other than the incomparable Steve Beam. If you don't know much about Steve Beam, let me give you a little introduction by way of a secret interview that was conducted with someone that I know. Roll the footage.
This is strictly off the record, right? I mean, you'll block my face out because I have a reputation to uphold. It all started when I was younger. I saw somebody do a really great card trick. I asked them where it was from. They said, "Have you ever heard of Steve Beam?" Those words changed my life forever. From the moment I found out about Steve Beam, I had to be Steve Beam. I made it my life goal to become more like Steve Beam. I found out that he went to the University of South Carolina. So I became a Gamecocks fan. So much misery. Go Gamecocks. I found out that he studied accounting. I decided that I wanted to become an accountant who did card tricks. I'd seen Steve Beam, so I wanted to look like him. I started to meticulously pluck out my hair. I learned how to put together a Cy Stebbins deck. I found out that he was a CFO. I made it my life goal to become a CFO so that I would have time to be on conference calls and practice card tricks. He does puns. I've made my kids' lives miserable with puns. There's one thing though that I never had that he had. I've done everything I can to be like Steve Beam, but then I found out he's often imitated, but never duplicated. The man is a machine. He wrote a periodical called The Trapdoor. Went for a long time. Then he wrote 12 books of semi-automatic card tricks. Once Steve Beam started publishing his semi-automatic card trick series books, Easy to Master Card Miracles stopped making DVDs. Coincidence? I think not. They have to promise me that all of this is off the record because I can't afford for them to see that it's me. No one can know that I wanted to be Steve Beam.
Well, I guess the cat's out of the bag. I have wanted to be like Steve Beam. I mean, who doesn't want to be like the guy? He's funny, engaging, prolific. The guy is the complete package. Who doesn't love accountants who've become magicians? Oh, so let's get into what we're going to talk about. We're here to talk about books. So what's Steve Beam done for magic books? The better question is, what has he not done? Steve is perhaps best known for his work in publishing the semi-automatic card trick series, which is now up to an incredible 12 volumes plus a complete index. Steve is perhaps less well known for some of his other contributions to the art of magic through the Trapdoor series. The Trapdoor series ran from 1984 through 1998. So what are the semi-automatic card trick series? It is a little bit what it sounds like. These are tricks that are relatively easy to do, not requiring a ton of manual dexterity for the performer, but instead allowing them to focus on their presentation or, in the case of Steve Beam, their humor as they present these card magic miracles. This video should be an overview of the semi-automatic card trick series. It would be impossible for anyone to go through and go line by line or trick by trick and tell you everything there is to know about the semi-automatic card series. But I do want to give you an overview, especially since I don't think that these books get as much press as they probably deserve. Part of that is the publishing strategy, since they are self-published. They're not pushed by Murphy's or other people, so you just don't see them pop up in advertisements as often. But if you love easy-to-do card tricks that still pack a powerful punch, then you really need to consider Steve Beam's semi-automatic card trick series. The very first in the semi-automatic card trick series harkens back to 1993. It is the smallest of the volumes at only 167 pages, but it is also the least expensive. The latest version, volume 12, which was published in 2020, clocks in at almost 350 pages. The interesting thing about Steve is that he self-publishes all of these, so they're truly labors of love, and you can't really get them from most of your favorite magic dealers. You need to get them straight from Steve at stevebeam.com. When you take the series as a whole with 12 volumes, you're talking about over 1,200 tricks and over 3,100 pages of magic. This is a whole lot of magic. Acquiring all of these would give you a lifetime of card magic, and one volume alone will give you a ton of magic. The other cool thing about the series is that a who's who of magicians have contributed to the series. Some of the names you've heard right here on the channel. Of course, you've heard about Steve Beam, Marty Caine, we reviewed his book. Woody Aragon has contributed, Ryan Schlutz has contributed, and then there are other people that I'm sure you know their names, you just haven't heard them on the channel yet. Names like Scott Robinson, Joe Turner, John Riggs, Darwin Ortiz, Raj Madhawk, Joe Reinflish, and others. There are way too many to name, I'm serious. You're going to have to look on his website for yourself to see all of the contributors to this fantastic set of resources. So who does this appeal to? You might be thinking, oh, semi-automatic card tricks. Do we really need any more card tricks that are easy to do? Well, I can't answer that for you, but to me, there's way more than just easy to do card magic in here. One of my favorite things about the entire series is how much fun they are to read. I think that's been lost in so many of the newer magic books is that they're getting across their message and teaching you sleights, but they're really not that fun to read. Steve is always fun to read. He's got a smattering of essays, lists, humorous anecdotes, you name it, that are sure to keep you laughing as you're reading through the books. Many people will argue that the tricks taught rely on mathematical principles or other things, and that is the genius of Steve Beam, is that he often disguises methods through entertaining plots. And that's where you're going to love this series. He's not afraid to poke fun of himself, or anyone else for that matter. So if your style is humorous, you are bound to pick up some interesting tidbits or thoughts that will get the juices flowing on how you could incorporate more humor or entertaining process into your card magic. Not everything in here is actually close-up, but the vast majority of it is going to be for the close-up card magician. So back to who is this for? I think it could benefit a lot of different people. I've given you some of the qualities of the tricks themselves, but I think that whether you are an advanced card handling guy or someone who's just a beginner, there's something for everyone. Because while the tricks themselves don't require a whole lot of sleight of hand, they can certainly be dressed up with some sleight of hand. So you may know some false shuffles, false cuts, other sleights that you could incorporate into the routines that might make them even more deceptive in your hands. And that's another reason why I love this series, because it engages your thinking. You're not encouraged to simply present the tricks the way Steve does, although you could do a lot worse. Because they're written so simply and directly, I feel like it encourages you to think through the things that you already know and figure out how you can apply that to what you're reading. I don't know any serious card magicians who would decry the contents of what you could find in the semi-automatic card tricks series. There's stuff in here for mem deck workers. There are items in here for stand-up performers, mentalism, switches, cuts, gambling demonstrations, counts. There's just too much to name. Most of the items can be done with a standard deck of playing cards and a few various gaffs that you probably have laying around. Some of them will require specialized gaffs, and Steve does sell those, but that's not the majority. The majority of it can be done with whatever pack of playing cards you happen to have around. I want to thank my friend Don over at Don's Magic and Books for sponsoring this episode of Erudite Magic. Magic books are a passion, and Don shares that passion with me for beautiful, wonderful magic books. He provides both the newest, latest, greatest books if that's your thing, but he also has a way of finding those out-of-print books from different collections and then offering them out to the magic community at a very reasonable price. Not only that, he wants to reward you for being an erudite magician by applying 10% off via the code down in the description. You're not going to find better deals on most of these books. So head on over to his site, usemagic.myshopify.com, see what he has to offer, and find that book that you know deserves a spot on your shelf and in your heart. Steve has meticulously done all of the illustrations himself, and I love that because I grew up old school with line drawings. None of this fancy new stuff with pictures out there, you young whippersnappers. Everything is black and white on an ivory colored paper. Steve could probably tell us more specifically what color paper this is. I'm going to call it an off-white. Yeah, let's go with that. Each volume has its own index which applies specifically to that volume, so if you only pick up one volume, don't worry about not being able to find things. There's a great table of contents. There's a good index in the back. It's fun to see the iterations that Steve went through. Starting with volume 3, he began to include a routine builder, which helps you take the items in the tricks that can follow each other, because some items are going to require a stack. So he's providing you with a routine builder that will help you put together sequential items that won't mess you up or that naturally build on each other. So that's also a really cool thing if you're just starting out and you're not super comfortable with piecing together your own stuff. Steve's already helped you. So from volume 3 onward all the way through 12, there is a routine builder in the back that will walk you through what you need to do to put together your own complete card magic act. If you get more than one volume, you may want to consider picking up the complete index because it'll help you just find things faster, and it might tell you what you want to buy moving forward as you add to your collection. If you've wanted to explore some of the works of people like Ryan Schlutz or others, then I recommend that you start with one of these volumes. It gives you a way to try or get a little taste of what some creators' magic is like before you go full bore into one of their own books. If you want Steve's books, you're going to have to shop for them directly from him at stevebeam.com. Tell him I sent you, and then double check your invoice that he didn't charge you more. So how do I recommend you proceed? There are so many of these to choose from. You can get the entire set of the Semi-Automatic Card Trick series for the low sum of $555. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of money, and it frankly is a lot of money. But since everything is self-produced, you are getting these, I think, for a relatively inexpensive price. If I told you that there were books that contained all of the best tricks from some of the people that I mentioned earlier, I think you would expect to pay a lot more for these books than what Steve is charging for them. I recommend you kind of look through the table of contents, see if there's a specific creator that you like, a specific trick that you've heard about that you want to try, or you might see that one volume deals more with poker or gambling or something in which you're interested. I recommend you start with that one. If you find out that you like it, great. Add to your collection until you end up owning all of them. Or just go ahead and skip all of the waiting and buy them all. There are so many favorites from this. I want you to comment down below. What is your favorite semi-automatic card trick that's been published? I think that'd be a really cool way to show a lot of magicians just how much value is in the semi-automatic card trick series. While there may be a few magical authors who are as prolific as Steve Beam, none are as entertaining. And yes, I wish I could be Steve Beam. But that role's already taken, so I'll just have to settle for next best, which is owning all the books that he's published. By the way, Steve, are you still calling the east wing of your home the Coak Wing? As always, if you have any questions, I know you guys are erudite enough to ask away, so please do. And until next time, keep reading.